Yes, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for according me an opportunity to also make my contribution to the amendments that are on the floor. The Water Amendment Bill 2023. Mr. Speaker.
Senator Murango, order, honorable members. Senator Murango, Senator Miraj, consult in silence.
Mr. Speaker, Senator Murango is confusing Senator Gloria on the floor of the House. Mr. Speaker, as senators, our main mandate under Article 96 of the Constitution is to defend devolution. That's why the people of the Republic of Kenya created a bicameral house, so that senators principally are supposed to be defenders of devolution. So every time we consider a bill as senators, our first concern is whether that bill is clawing back on devolution or it is strengthening devolution, Mr. Speaker. The second point, Mr. Speaker, is for us to ensure that we don't support a law that takes away devolved functions. So, Mr. Speaker, if we start from the basics, the responsibility for water services, provision of water, is a function of our devolved units. That's in the Constitution. So if we want to transfer that function to the national government, we begin by amending the Constitution first. If we don't, Mr. Speaker, we'll be enacting a law that is clearly unconstitutional. And we should take our work seriously, Mr. Speaker. Legislation is not a joke, Mr. Speaker. In other jurisdictions, differences between two houses, the House of Representatives and the Senate, can lead to dissolution of the entire House. It has happened 7 times in Australia, and therefore we should not shy off as senators from telling off our colleagues from the other House that the amendments they are trying to push through are unconstitutional. And let's not joke with issues of water. Mr. Speaker, water has caused war, even in this part of the world, even in Kenya here. The conflicts we have in Eastern is triggered by fight for water, Mr. Speaker. If you go to the Far East, the conflict between Israel and its neighbors is related to water, relates to water over River Jordan, Mr. Speaker. If you go to the Nile Basin, we have had the Nile Treaty Agreement, I think for over 70 years, since 1959, Mr. Speaker. And the neighboring countries, I think 9 of them, that enjoy that water of Nile Basin, have respected that Nile Basin Treaty. Because if you don't follow it, Mr. Speaker, it can trigger war. Not just between Egypt and Sudan, but even among the other 9 countries along the Nile Basin. So, Mr. Speaker, anytime we get a bill like this that wants to deny counties their constitutional mandate, we should proceed cautiously. And we should also have a moment of self-reflection. I wish Senator Seragei was here. It should not be our business, Mr. Speaker, that every time we sit as parliamentarians, we pass bad laws, and then we throw up our hands and say, courts will deal with it. Even the courts will get tired. We will also become a collective shame to the nation, Mr. Speaker. We should be candid, Mr. Speaker, and say if a law is unconstitutional, let us be bold and say it's unconstitutional. Period. So that we win the respect of Kenyans. It cannot be, Mr. Speaker, that we were elected 67 of us and we have no brains to think. Senator Galwale is a very senior senator. He has done, I think, 5 terms as an elected member of parliament. So he should be able to enact laws that are in conformity with the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya. And when you read the proposed amendments, clearly, as a lawyer, I can see that they are unconstitutional. Because we want to transfer functions that are reserved for county governments to the national government. I mean, we are supposed to be a country that is strengthening devolution, not clawing back. Not clawing back. And we are, I mean, if we can't protect counties, then what will be our business as senators? It seems we have no business. And I can tell you, when the current regime took power, we got a memorandum from the head of state written to us. And he said in black and white that he expects members of parliament, National Assembly, and the Senate to discharge their functions independently. So you have no cause for fear. We must discharge our functions independently in accordance with the Constitution, because we swore to protect the Constitution. That is it. So if you transfer all these issues dealing with bulk water works to those regional bodies, what will counties be doing, Mr. Speaker? And there are several issues that should be of concern to us other than fighting as to who should do what. The Constitution is very clear. We are one country with one national government and with 47 county governments. So we should cooperate, not to have these fights of we want to have more power than the other the other level of government. That should not be our concern. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to be on record that on behalf of the people of Nyamira, I'll be opposing, and I stand here to oppose this proposed amendment, especially where it's clawing back on functions that have clearly been reserved by the Constitution of Kenya 2010 for county governments. Even reading the creation of a tribunal as proposed in this bill, there is no participation of our county governments. We are giving that power to Judicial Service Commission to appoint advocates, to appoint engineers, without any involvement of our county governments. That's not the way to go. That's not the way to go, Mr. Speaker. And at times I sit back and wonder, if we don't want devolution, why can't we be bold? Come up with a referendum. We do away with devolution. Then we transfer every service, every function to the national government. But if we take away all these functions from our governors, and the governors have issues, we know. If we take away all these functions, what will be the functions of governors? Is it just to send money to them, they get salaries and big vehicles? I mean, Mr. Speaker, I expect if I go to Nyamira, I want to ask my governor questions about provision of water to my people. If I go to my ward where I was born and bred up,